everyone, my name is Kelsey Bigham and today I'm going to be doing the Glow Germ hand washing lab. So I have my Glow Germ right here. I haven't put this on my hands just yet, but I just wanted to get everything in here set up. I have my no wash tubes, my quick wash tubes, and my good wash tubes. Here is my tap water. I have 3 pipettes. I have this brush to clean underneath my fingernails, some soap and paper towels as well to push to open the faucet and also to push down on the soap dispenser. So once I apply this, I'm going to be turning off the lights and using this lovely little UV light to kind of measure where contamination is in this room on my hands and on the tubes that I have set up over here. So to get started, we are going to do the no wash portion. So first I'm just going to shake this up really good. Okay, so I'm applying a dime size amount of this into the palm of my hand. Oh my gosh, it looks like lotion. Okay, so I'm just putting this all over my hands, trying to get it in between my fingers, on my thumbs. Okay, I think that this is pretty well covered. So now I'm taking a pipette right here, getting some water. I'm just putting the water in this test tube. Now I'm going to do the same thing for this second test tube. Okay, so that's no wash. So I'm excited to see what this looks like. So I'm going to turn the lights off with my elbow. Okay, so I have definite contamination on both tubes, even though I only touched one of them. I'm going to just bring this over so you guys can kind of see it, hopefully. There's contamination on this side, and I touched this tube. I did not touch this tube, and there's still contamination on it. There's definite contamination on the pipette that I used. There's not really any contamination on the water itself. No contamination around the sink. I thought I would see a little bit just because this is, oh, here's a contamination spot in the sink. This is where I put the Glow Germ on over. So I have 2 distinct spots of contamination in my sink. I have the contamination spot on the pipette, on both of the tubes, and definitely on the tube rack where I touched it. And wow, my hands are completely covered. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so both of my hands are covered. I'm sure that if I could turn this UV light on itself, then we would see contamination on that as well. But since I can't do that, wow. That is pretty impressive. Okay, so for this next part, I'm going to try to turn the lights back on. Okay, so I have the lights back on. I'm just going to very quickly wash my hands with soap and rinse them like most people typically do when you tell them to wash their hands. To do this, I'm just going to pump soap on here really quickly, very briefly run the water over my soapy hands, not even try to get in between my fingers, and then we're going to do the same thing. So I don't want to touch the soap dispenser. So I'm going to turn the faucet on, some soap. Just a quick little wash. Okay, so I'm drying my hand with paper towel real quick. Okay. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this pipette and get more water, 3 milliliters, and put that into this tube. And again, into the second tube. Okay, now let's see where's contamination with the quick wash. So let's turn the light off again. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So the quick wash basically didn't do anything. There's still contamination spots, even more so in the sink now than there were. There's a ton of contamination in the sink. Like basically the entire sink is contaminated now. My hands, with the exception of one section of my palm, really, are still completely contaminated, especially on the backs of my hands. On the palms, you can see it kind of got them a little bit better with that quick wash. There's contamination on this tube and on this tube. Let's see. There's a little bit of contamination on the pipette as well. And while I'm looking at the pipette, I'm just seeing all of the glow germ that's stuck underneath my cuticle, and that is really impressive. Even still, I don't see contamination on the beaker. And I did manage to keep it off of the faucet for the most part. There is some contamination on the lower parts of the faucet down here that are closer to the sink that I'm sure splashed up. And nothing on the soap. Okay, so if I had to put a number on the amount of contamination spots in my sink, I would say at least 10. Wow. Okay. So to move to the next part of the experiment, I'm going to fully wash my hands this time. So to do that, I am going to use another paper towel to make sure that I don't get the existing glow germ that's still on my hands on the sink and on the soap again. So I'm just going to turn the sink on, get some more soap. Okay, so I'm lathering in my palms. This should all take about 20 seconds. I might go over. And now I'm moving to the back of my left hand and my knuckles. I want to get in between the fingers. Do the same thing on my right hand. Get my knuckles. Trying to get what was left on my cuticle off of there too. And get in between these fingers. And I don't want to forget my thumbs. This is a part that a lot of people forget about, is washing their thumbs individually and getting in the crevice of their thumb right here. And then I'm just going to finish up on the palms again. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm supposed to use this brush to clean underneath my nails. My nails are pretty short, so I'm hoping that there's not much contamination under there. But I'm also going to go on top of my cuticle because that's where I saw contamination when I was just looking at the pipette from the quick wash portion of the experiment. Okay. So after I finish this, I'm just going to dry my hands off really quickly. And then I'm going to use the UV light again. I'm going to hold that with a paper towel just so I don't get any contamination back on my hands to taint the rest of the experiment. But I'm just going to use the UV light to kind of go over where I need to continue cleaning before moving on. So to do that, turn the lights off again. Yeah, my hands are completely clear. That's so impressive. I do still see some spots around the upper portion of the bowl of the sink, so I'm going to go back in and clean those. And there's a little bit on the bottom of the faucet as well, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that as well. But both my right and my left hands look pretty good after thoroughly washing them. And it is out of my cuticles, thank goodness. Okay, so before I move on, I am going to take a paper towel and put a little bit of soap on it, turn the sink back on, and I'm just going to clean around the sink. And then a little bit right up here as well. And while we're here, just clean my glow germ, or excuse me, the UV light. Okay, let's check this again. Once I take my hands off. Okay, so let's check and see if that did any good. Yep. Okay, so the sink is now, those biggest contamination spots that were on the back of my sink and in the upper bowl of my sink are gone now. So I think we are good to move on to the full hand washing, the good wash. So to do that, I need to reapply Glow Germ. So I'm going to apply a dime size amount again and make sure that I get this all over my hands. You might have noticed that to apply this, I'm basically using good hand washing technique to make sure that I get it all over my hands. Okay. All right, that is all over my hands now. So now I'm going to start out by having a good hand washing technique. So I'm going to turn on the sink with my paper towel, get some soap, and do my at least 20-second good hand washing. Okay. Okay. So now, after my good hand washing, I am going to do the same thing that I did in the other two and transfer some water over. So I'm putting 3 milliliters of water in each of these tubes. I'll touch them too since I touched the other two. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's see if the good hand washing technique did any better at decreasing contamination. I have one spot in my sink and it's in the back of my sink, so I think that it was just missed by the water. There is one tiny, tiny little spot on this front tube right here. Now let's look at my hands. I have a little bit on this nail on my left index finger. And that's it. Wow, that's impressive. So we went from having over 10 spots of contamination in the sink to just one, and that's only there because it was missed by the water. And vast contamination on both of these, or on all 4 of these tubes, to very, very minimal. Like, I'm talking a very, very small, less than a millimeter large speck of contamination on this tube. So that is pretty impressive. Well, I hope that this shows how important proper hand washing technique is today. This was a really cool experiment to do, especially during coronavirus, with everybody now caring more about their hand hygiene. So thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you watching.